Oh, oh. Wants to go up there. So I'm already making a pig's ear of this. Look, and I pulled the spring off, look. Oh no. Hi, welcome back to Repairing Lawnmowers for Profit. It's another freezing cold February night and we're all stuck indoors due to this COVID pandemic, which I'm sure you're sick of hearing about, and that's the last time I'll mention it on this video. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try something that I've not seen done. I presume it has been done. I've not seen a video on it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this Chocomatic carb for a standard Briggs Classic carb. See if I can swap it over and get this engine running with a different carb on. 'Cause you might have seen the previous video where I've just got this running again. If you haven't, there's a card in the top left hand corner. But I basically got this running. But the problem with these carbs is they don't start again once the engine's been warm and you shut it off. Once you shut the engine off, it tends to try and choke itself again. Obviously that's not good if you're trying to start a warm lawnmower engine. So I'm going to get a standard Briggs carb, which I've taken off this. I've just stripped this down for bits. I was going to film that, but I thought it might be a bit boring. So I've basically stripped that down for bits. I've got a carb off there. I'm going to swap over and try and fit on this, just to see if it'll fit first of all, see if everything goes in the same place, and just see if we can get it running. So I wasn't going to film this, but I was just going to come out here and do it just for something to do, really, to pass an hour. But while I'm out here, I thought I might as well film it, because I get some nice comments on my YouTube channel from all you great subscribers. So I'm going to lift that on the bench, have another quick look around it, service the carb off a Briggs Classic, which you've seen me do loads of times. We'll have a bit of a chat and I'll put it on it and then we'll see if it runs. And maybe just have a few looks around this mower as well. Someone sent me a message today, by the way, saying this takes 600 millilitres of oil. So thanks for that in the comments section, I really appreciate that. So I think what I'll do with this when I get it running again is I'll drain out what's in it just to give it an extra clean out, and I'll put 600 ml of the correct oil in that. I also had a message today saying apparently this was a Hayter Kestrel. It wasn't a Hayter Harrier, it's a Hayter Kestrel. Someone believed it was a 1982, I think, or an 81. But anyway, it looks like it says Harrier, but maybe someone's just got a different decal and put it on. Either way, it's definitely a Hayter with a Briggs engine. So I'm going to leave this on the bench. We'll take this carb off because I'm not entirely happy with that being on it, really. And we'll put a Briggs carb on it. I'll say Briggs carb, a newer Briggs carb on it, and try it. And then what I think I'll probably do after that is I'll just put this carb back on. But just to get out here and have a bit of a tinker in the garage, let's lift this on the bench, strip the carb off, and let's service a standard Briggs carb, put it on it, and we might have to make a few little changes to these actual breather pipe under here. So I think this one might be a bit long, I'm not sure. So we'll do that. It's something to do, isn't it? Hopefully it gives you all something to watch as well. And you can leave me a comment in the comments section as well. I've just had one now actually saying I've got a great project going on but I talk too much. It's probably very true, that. So it's really difficult when you film actually, because obviously if you stood here with a video camera and you're not talking, it's a bit pointless, isn't it? So I do talk too much, but I'll stop rambling. I'll put this on the bench and we'll spend an hour stripping this down and having a bit of fun. Right, so I've just removed that little spark plug wire that's all a bit of a mess around there. Very quickly, we'll just take this carb off. It'll only take probably 30 seconds. So we'll strip this off, and then we'll get another Briggs carb. We'll strip that down, we'll service that, and we'll put the actual Briggs one on as well. So I've just been charging my battery for this Ryobi, so I'll put that back on there, like that. Let's get that, like that. Let's take this on here, like this. Take this off here. That one's off there, like that. Swap this over. I'll take this 10mm off the front here. Let's just get in here like this, look. That's off. This should pull out of here. Kevin Spacey should fall out. He's been doing that on his own recently, hasn't he? Anyway, this should this should just pull off here. And we know this works because I've had it running in the previous video, but it's just a bit of an old design now, a bit of an old setup. So let's just unhook that and take that off. I'll put that to the back of the bench, pick up Kevin Spacey, and he can go there. That's that off. We'll take this recoil cover off as well. In fact, I could probably do that now if I can find the right socket. This is what I love about these mowers, they're just so easy, so quick to strip down. It takes no time at all to do this. Right, let's lift this off. Oh, looking a bit messy, look. I'll take this off here, undo this. Not going well, is it really? I should have known that was on there, shouldn't I really? Since I spent 2 hours filming the last YouTube video. Let's just get that off there. In a minute, I promised myself on this video, after watching the last one back and editing it, I'm going to get myself a decent screwdriver out. Stop messing about with this one with paint on. I really do need to get a decent set of screwdrivers. If anyone knows a decent set of sort of various cross-headed and flat ones, just leave us a message in the comment section. I'm never sure which ones to buy. I'm just having a look at this engine cover actually, see if I can see any dates stamped on here, but I can't see anything on that. I don't think there's anything on the side or on the back of it either, is there? So no, nothing there, but we've got that off and we'll move that out of the way. Right, now ideally what I want to do is get this carb. This is off that other Champion lawnmower that I've just showed you, the big hole in the deck. Ideally I just want to put this on here. I'll have to swap all these springs over and push it on, but I want to see if it actually goes on the manifold first. See how it's all a bit far away. This actual breather pipe seems to be sort of too long, so let's just see if I could actually do it. If I push that on there and push it on, yeah, I can kind of physically get it on, but all this is bent. Can you see how it's too long here? And obviously I've got the springs correct and everything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and we'll service this carb in a second, because this is obviously not been run for a while either. This is filthy, so we'll give that a quick service while I'm here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pipe off. If you remember from the last video, I took this off and I took one off the other Briggs engine that I've got down there, and I said it might be slightly shorter, so I think down here in my tub I've still got this. So let me just bend down here a minute and look at look. See if I slid it in the top of here. I'm still here, coming back in a minute. Don't worry. There we go. Right, here we go. I've got this, look. It's like Blue Peter, innit? I just got one ready earlier, look. What did they say? Here's one I made earlier. But I've got that, look. So, as you can see there, it's slightly shorter, so let's give that a quick clean up. Get a bit of this cloth across here and we'll try and wind that in, because this should link up with this Briggs carb, this other Briggs carb that I've got, which is off a 35 Classic engine. So we'll give that a little bit of a clean up and we'll push that on. I'm going to try and thread this through the other side like this and get that on there. I thought so I can swap that over. It's the same thread, it's just shorter. Look at that there. This is what I always mention in the videos. When you try a carb like this one here and you take it off that inlet manifold again, these pop out of here, and I get loads of messages saying I've serviced the carb and it still won't run right, and I'm sure it's because people lose these off here or don't have them seated properly in the back of these carbs. So I'll put that to one side, put them back in there actually, black one first and the white one. We'll have a look at that in a second, but let's put that to one side and let's not get sidetracked. So I want to tighten this up. These never ever, 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 and I mean ever, go right round and go tight, ever. I've never done it one time where I've started the thread and it's gone round and it's ended up with this part like this. For some reason on these, I don't know why it is, they always seem to end up fairly loose. And I don't like that, but it's just the way it seems to be. So, let's put it in again. And I can just about get it. Obviously it depends where you start to thread it, so it's a little bit of trial and error, but I want it to be, you know, as near as I can get it to straight up and tight. So I'll take it off and just spend a minute or so having a couple of goes at this. It's really, really cold in here tonight. It's one of those nights again where you can see your breath, but so I suppose you've got to worry about that. Everyone's sat watching with a cup of coffee. So I enjoy doing it. I just enjoy coming out, and it's good to take your mind off things and just get on with something and have a bit of a fiddle about with it and keep yourself occupied in it, really. So that's getting closer. I wonder if I can just twist that a little bit more, and that's pretty close. I'm going to bend the rest of that round with a few pliers in a second, with a pair of pliers in a second, and that'll do. But that's on there, so let's just get a pair of pliers. Look, I've left them up here. I tidied everything up, you see, and I put all the things I normally use together, so I'll give that a bit of a twist, and that's tight. That's how I want it. Let's just offer this carb back up to it again now. Like that. It's really dirty, this, isn't it? I can push that on, yeah, that fits. You see, that fits on that manifold there, it slid on nice. And then I've got this part in here, which is exactly where I want it. And I've not got to worry about any of this, because I'm going to take all this governor flap off, this spring, and all these linkages, and use the standard spring. So that's great, it's going to fit on there. Let's get this spacer again and see if that still fits. Should be somewhere pretty close in there. That's going to fit. Let's try it in a bowl as well. Let's see if it's going to go. Don't see why it wouldn't, and I don't see why it wouldn't run either. I don't understand really why, well, I don't see any reason why this engine won't run with this carb on, because it's effectively the same engine as a standard Briggs Classic engine. As long as it's getting good fuel, it's not getting any leaks, and the springs move around right, I'm thinking this should work. So let's have a look inside there. I don't know if it looks a bit bent inside. Maybe that's just how it is. Not sure. Anyway, we'll clean it up and we'll have a look, but it's going to fit. Let's have a look at this on the front of here. Yeah, even the hole, this hole here, that goes around the front of here. This one here where you bolt it on, even that's going to fit as well, so that's great. So I'm going to take the linkage off first. We'll do that now. And then we'll service up this carb, we'll put it on. And then when it's daytime, oh, better undo that on really. When it's daytime, I can take this outside and we can try it. So that's great. I know it's going to fit, and whether it'll run or not, I don't 100% know, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. And the advantage of this carb is that it hasn't got that choke-o-matic on here, so when it's warm and you want to start it up again, it just starts up again. So even if I'm giving this away, I want somebody to be able to stop this mower, empty the grass box, and then put the grass box back on and start it up without any problems. Otherwise it's kind of useless really, unless you're taking the grass box off and just using it as a rough cut mower. So, which is, you know, kind of effectively what it is, isn't it? But I want to get it so somebody can actually use this on a weekly basis. So let's take this carb off and let's have a look at servicing this. I'm just having a quick look at the comments as they come in as well. I've just got one here saying have a look under the flywheel, that's where the points would have been, but it looks like someone's changed the coil to do away with the points. That would be good. So one thing I could try is I could just, well, it'd probably ruin it if it did still work on points, because I could take it off. I'd have to strip everything off under here, and it obviously wouldn't work if it was still running on points. But I don't know, maybe we should try and have a look under this flywheel and see if we can get the flywheel off and have a look and see if these wires are still connected to the points. I'm not so sure about that. I've not got a lot of experience about points and things like that, like I've said in the other videos, but maybe we'll have a look at that as well. I've just got the governor flap off that other engine that I've broken down for spares. You see the bend on that. I don't know if this is just too bent, but this one's always seemed a bit straight to me. I think it should kind of coil around this flywheel a bit more, so I may swap that actual governor over. Sorry, hiccuping now when I was talking. I may swap that governor flap over for this one as well at the same time. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to unhook all this. I'm going to take these linkages off here. I'll start by taking this governor flap off here. So let's just get a tool on there and take all this off. I don't really like the setup of this, to be honest. I was never really happy with the governor flap like that. All the springs, which I've kind of doctored to make it work, and it didn't run 100% right, although I did get it running, so I never actually got to the point where I could fix these springs off. So let's just take these off. We're never good, these. I'm going to lose that spring. I've got some more spares of those. Let's get that off there. This can come off as well. I'm not bothered about the throttle, because the throttle won't do a lot with the standard Briggs carb on anyway, and I'd rather it wasn't there, to be honest. If it's not on, you can't go wrong, can it? And you won't get somebody trying to use it saying it doesn't work. I do that with a lot of mowers, by the way. If I don't think the throttle's going to do much, I generally just unhook the actual cable, take the handle off, take the cable off, and I just sell it without the cable on. So don't go to too much trouble with those Briggs type engines trying to get the throttle to work, because they very rarely do much anyway. So that's just a quick tip. So we've got that off, and let's just have a look at this ignition coil. Right, so I'm going to be brave here. I might make a few mistakes, so be kind to me in the comment section, but I've just had a quick look on YouTube, and in fact I'm going to give this guy a shout out, because I've never done this before. I've just watched a video on here, how to remove flywheel, old model Briggs & Stratton, Gary George's. I'll leave him a link in the description of this video. He tapped around, well he didn't show this, but he kind of tapped around here, like this and lifted this up. I've never done that before, so off camera I've just been round there gently and tapped that, and he didn't show this bit but I saw it separate. You'll see it if you watch the video anyway. So I'm going to get that bit, I'm going to turn it over. Let's just make sure that's over like that. And then in here there's some ball bearings, so I'm going to get my little magnet. I've never done this before and I'm kind of probably going to make a mess, but this lifts out like this, and I wasn't intending to do that. What I was intending to do is get some ball bearings out. As I said, I've never done this, so I'm going to get this in here. There's some ball bearing things in here. I want to grab all of these and take them all out. So I've got all those out. I'm going to drop them in the parts tray like that. I've got that because I really want to get this flywheel off. So I've got that off, and now I want to get this flywheel off, and I don't want to break anything, but it looks to me under here like you've got to get this and kind of hold it and undo the top bit, but I'm not sure if you just can bump this off like you normally would. There's no brake on this holding the flywheel in position, so let's just have a look at the top of that. Let's just have a look at this and just spray a bit on there for future. Sometimes I can get this air chisel and I can put it on the top of here and loosen everything up. You've got to be really careful with stuff like this that you don't break the actual crankshaft going through this as well. If you damage anything on the top with some of these, you can have a real job getting everything back together. So I'm going to do a little bit more YouTubing in my garage, and I think this flywheel is going to pop off. And the reason I want to do that is I want to learn a little bit about these points, because I believe there's some points under the flywheel. In the last video I didn't really dare do this. I wanted to get it running, but I want to get this off, so I'll do a little bit more investigation work on how to do this. And if you can do this already, and you know how to do this by the way, good for you. If I'm doing anything majorly wrong, let me know in the comment section. So I'm having a go, and I'm going to try and get this flywheel off, but I don't see how I can bump it up from underneath without damaging something here on the shaft, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to do a little bit of YouTubing and teach myself a little bit, but I am going to get this flywheel off and look at these points. And as I'm looking at this whole configuration, I'm thinking that if I break it, I don't see why I couldn't just put a normal Briggs flywheel on. I've got one over there and I could probably swap that over as well. I'm not sure it's the same size, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to get this part off. Right, so I've given this a few little taps. If I want to put the screwdriver in here, I'll just tap this round a little bit just to see what happened, and then basically this whole thing's going to unscrew, so I can take this off. I think it's on a thread. Yeah, so that comes off. Simple as that. Now I'm going to give this a bump from underneath here. That's pretty easy. That's probably because I've sprayed it with this WD-40. I'm going to get this flywheel off. There's a washer on there as well. I don't want to lose that. So that's off. It wasn't as bad as I thought. And then I can get in here, look into this. Oh yeah, I love it when I get a secret compartment. Don't you love it when you find something that you've never been in before like this, and you can have a quick look round? See, I find this exciting. It's quite sad, isn't it, really? But you know, I don't know. It's good fun. I think it's good fun looking at stuff like this. So what I do with my evenings is up to me, isn't it? So let's have a look in here. I guess there's some points in here, and I'm hoping that the wires aren't connected up. I wish I'd gone in here before actually and had a look. I just wanted to get it running. I didn't want to break anything off. With this being quite an old mower, I was quite keen to just get it running before I delved too far in. Let's take that off there. Yeah, look, we've got some points. This is great. Oh, that's really good. So you can see we've still got a wire. These wires are still connected up to here, and I think from what I've looked at on the internet before is in here, which I'm going to show you close up in a minute. And I think these parts in here are just the bits I need to clean up. I'm not sure how's a set point, so this video I'll do a bit of research tomorrow online, and I'll probably film a bit tomorrow night when I've got a bit more knowledge about this. But for now I'm going to show you, and I'm going to clean up what I think needs cleaning up. So I could really do with some help in the comments section about points and a bit of education about this. So that opens and closes, and I think in this little gap here you need to get a little bit of sandpaper and just clean off this actual connection inside here, the bit where this touches, because I think when I've seen videos before, this moves up, this opens and closes while the engine's running like this. I think it does a little bit, and this is what gets the spark, sends it down this wire. and gives you the ignition in the coil. So I'm just wondering if I can swap the ignition coil over and do away with the points. Now I'm not sure if that would work, and I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't, as long as I've got it to no kill switch. The only problem would be, I suppose, is how do you stop the mower with no dead man's handle? So I'm thinking out loud here. This is the situation I'm at, but I'm going to take the camera off the tripod. I'm going to show you close up where these points are. So while I'm running through all those scenarios, I'll just get my camera in here, because these are the shots that people really like us. If they want to know about this stuff and get a real close-up shot of how everything moves about, if they're taking it apart, I know this will come in useful. So I'm not sure what I've done there. I'll push that below it. Look, I'm making a mess here. I found a little screwdriver. Let's get that back in position before I do anything else. That wants to go up there. So I'm already making a pig's ear of this. Look, and I pulled spring off. Look. Oh no. Oh, what am I doing here? Right, I need to quickly film this. This wire goes around here. This spring needs to hook back on here. And I need to get it all back together. So you'll have to bear with me a minute. So I've already made a mess, as you can tell. I've never done these before. And these are the things that happen, isn't it? So I'll put that back on there. I've got the other end of the spring connected, so this one needs to hook on there. I'm pretty sure I can do this. And in fact, while it's off, I can probably clean up these bits easier with it off. So I need to clean up this part here. I need to clean up this part that's in here with a little bit of sandpaper. Make sure these are nice and clean. So while this is off, I've got some sandpaper here. I don't have any really fine stuff, so I have to be real careful. I'm just going to clean this part off here. And I hope I'm doing this right. As I said, I'm definitely no expert at this. So I'm just going to basically give it a little bit of a clean up. Just make sure there's no grease on it, and give it kind of a bit of give it a tickle, as a friend of mine would say. I'm going to clean that up there. I don't want to wear anything down, but I can see the black coming off it. I can see it's going back to having a nice silver shiny finish there. So I should be thinking, while I'm doing this, I always think, what am I going to take a photograph of for the thumbnail of my video? And I normally try and grab a picture on my phone of the worst bit when I've got in the most mess. So I guess this is probably it. So while that's hanging off there, and people are wondering what on earth I'm doing with this, I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to take a photograph for the thumbnail. And the other little bit I'm going to clean up as well is this bit here. Because from what I've seen, and I've only briefly watched some videos on this probably a few years ago now, is if these aren't clean and set correctly, you don't get good spark. And I know I was getting sparks. I tested this in the other video, so I know this part of it's working. But I'd really like to take this coil off, because on the last video you might know that when I unhooked the spark plug lead, it actually broke off inside. So I don't actually have the correct connection to go to the plug. So while I'm doing all this, I'm still considering just changing this ignition over, because I've got another ignition coil off this other mower, and just putting a standard ignition coil on it. And while I'm doing all this stuff, the stuff that's going through my head is, what's the worst that can happen? You know, like if I put another ignition coil on it, will it run? Will it spark? Will I have a problem stopping it? So I'm having to think about that. And I'll work it out as I go along as to the pluses and minuses of it, really. Right, I'm back, and I can't lie, I've been about 20 minutes, half an hour, I'm not exaggerating here, working out how this goes back on here. Because I knocked this off, it's such a good job I'd filmed this. I've gone back kind of frame by frame, and I often wonder why I see people on videos doing this and they're really careful with this, and I think, why don't you just open it and stick some paper in and just clean it? What are you messing about at? But this spring came off here, and luckily I could see where it hooked on. It's quite obvious, and I could see here, for anybody who's made the same mistake as me, it hooks on from this inner side, goes around and then back. But what I didn't see, because I've got the lawnmower at this side, is there's a slot in here. Down this side of here, there's actually a slot down here where it slides in. Because I'm stood with the lawnmower this side, I kept hooking the spring on and wondering why it didn't actually hold it on. So you've got to be real careful. You can see, you just want to open these to the absolute minimum. And this is how you learn, isn't it? By making mistakes. So I'm not really too bothered. I've spent 20 minutes freezing cold doing that, because one thing I've learned about points is basically, they're a bad idea, but that you need to be careful not to knock this out of here. Now from where I was stood, I couldn't see this slot from here. I couldn't see that this slid in, and I've had to work against the spring tension to get this back in, so it all loops round and everything opens and closes as it should. So what I've done is I've dropped a little bit of sandpaper and cleaned those off the best I can, and that's really all I can do with the points. But I wanted to show that because, as I say, I've done loads of mowers. I've never really touched anything with points on before, which is they're a bit of a pain. So if you are doing this, you want to open these up very slightly. Get yourself a little bit of really fine sandpaper. Mine's really thick that I've got, that's all I've got. And then just put it in here and just clean these two little points off in here. And that's all you can do really. But just remember that this is where the springs go. And I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds for anybody who's having the same problem as me, looking at an old briggs like this. Just showing them where all these springs go, really up close. How it all opens and closes like this. You can see that spring there, this one hooks through from this side where the screwdriver is and goes around like that, hooks on at this side, and then you've got to pull this metal bit here and slot it down this slot inside here. So that's been a fun freezing cold half an hour in February, but I've done it and I've learnt a little bit while I've been out here as well. Another thing to check here is this keyway as well. You want to make sure that this keyway is perfectly square. I want to show you this on here. So I'll take this off and have a quick look at it if I can get it out. Let's just knock this out of here. Don't really want to take it out if I don't have to. It's not difficult to get back in. It's just, you can see here now there's no notches out of it. Everything's nice and rectangular. If you saw the top half of this kind of slid across from the other half, you'd know that this had been damaged. You can see in the top there, if this is kind of across each other or twisted, or there's half of it that's kind of offset, you know you've got a damaged flywheel key here, the crankshaft key at the top. So make sure when you've got the flywheel off that you check that. So I've cleaned that off a little bit. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to have a think while I go in now. I'm going to watch an episode of Sopranos, and I'm going to have a think why I can't change that over to a standard ignition coil. But being out here and having a chat to the camera and everybody on YouTube about this, at least I've educated myself a bit. And this is where I am going to need a bit of help from you guys in the comment section. So if you've just watched me play around in there and try and educate myself a bit, do me a favour and leave me your best comment in the comment section to try and help me. Thanks for that. So we'll carry on, we'll get this back together and we'll swap this carb over. Right, so it's the next night now. I've had a bit of a haircut. It's like a army cut, isn't it? But anyway, I did it myself, so no awful comments in the comment section, just be kind. But anyway, I watched a few videos on this mower today regarding points and the way I took it apart and everything. So if you're screaming in the comment section at everything I've done wrong so far, I honestly don't blame you. But I'm only trying to learn this as I go along and film a few videos, just so everyone can have something to watch and we can all have a bit of a chat in comment section and stuff. So I've made a few mistakes looking at the points and how I actually removed the actual flywheel and things like that. So it's a good thing to learn, good thing to watch the videos actually before you try and do any repairs on any of these mowers. And I normally do that. I have a quick look through the regular channels. I looked on Bruce Pender's channel today. I'm not sure if it's called Bruce's Shop now. I'll put a link to that in the description if I remember as well. He removed one of these flywheels like I've got on this lawnmower behind me. I watched that today and he did a good job of it, not like me. But I've had a few ideas with this lawnmower, things I might do going forward regarding the kill switch and the ignition coil, and obviously the carb I'm going to swap over. So I'll do a bit more work on it tonight, and I'll let you know my thoughts as we go along. So what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to put this back on, I'm going to put the flywheel back on and everything back together. I'm happy that these are fairly clean. I know it was working before, and I've shown a good few close-ups around there as well. I think I put some, if I remember to do it in editing, I'll put some photographs on the screen as well. I'm going to put that together, but the few thoughts I've had apart from the carb, swapping this ignition coil for a more modern one. But as I said last night when I was filming this, I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't work, apart from you've got a problem with a kill switch. You've got to have some mechanism to stop the mower. Now of course I was thinking today, well, how did this mower stop before? And this has actually got a speed adjuster on, and it's actually got a stop on the actual adjuster at the top, which moves this lever here. And I've noticed underneath here there's a wire, and I can only presume that under here this is a kill switch. So what I want to show you is this part here. So what happens when the cable's connected, the throttle cable's connected, is this opens up and closes. Now I've noticed there's a little catch on here, underneath here there's a little tab on here, which I'll try and film close up in a minute. But this must be a kill switch, because how else would the lawnmower stop? So I've been kind of thinking about this sort of stuff. I do this when I'm laid in bed and I can't get to sleep. Start thinking about replacing ignition coils. It's great, isn't it? Things you do. But this must stop the mower. So I'm thinking if I put a modern ignition coil on here, set it against the flywheel, and then I could take the kill switch wire and I could run it to this. When I finish using the mower, after I've got this different carb on, I could just simply turn this to connect over this tab, and hopefully it stop the mower. So as well as doing this carb, at some point I think what I'm going to do, and I may do it in this video, I may do it in a separate one, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and swap the ignition coil, connect this kill switch up to this part here, and see if we can do that as well. And we'll just have to stop the mower by turning this. The other way I thought about doing this was, I saw a video today where someone put a tab on a starter recoil, and when they'd finished with it they just tapped it against a spark plug and it stopped the spark. But if I've got a new ignition coil on here, this will have the end cap on, and ideally I'd rather push it over. So if I can, I want to try and use this switch. I want to use the newer style ignition coil, which sits up here, and I want to use the newer style carb. So for now I'm going to leave these points connected up, but at some point I may take that off, just do away with the points if I can. If I can work out how to do that, I'll film a video on that as well. So I'm going to put this back together. I'll quickly do that. I'll probably film a little bit of it, and then we'll move on to this carb. So I'm going to tighten this back on here, put these bolts back in here. I noticed that the ratchet that I took off when I took the flywheel off as well was very dirty in there, so I'm going to clean all that out, make sure all the ball bearings go back in and it all moves, and I might not have as many problems when I'm pulling the pull cord over. See the action I did there, look. When I'm pulling the pull cord over like this, it often didn't retract properly, and I think it's because the ball bearings got stuck. It didn't catch sometimes when you were pulling it over. So I want to make sure all that's clean. And the one thing I'm never sure with those ratchets with like ball bearings inside it is whether you need to actually oil them, or whether that causes the ball bearings to stick. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil in there once it's all really cleaned out. But I really do want you to leave me a comment in the comment section to tell me how you would do that, because I'm never sure when you've got things like ratchets and the ball bearings and things like that, whether you actually should put any oil in there, or you should just close them up and kind of leave them dry. So do leave me a comment. So I've got that cover on. I'm going to drop this flywheel back on. As I said, I already know without being told that I've made a bit of a mess of doing this. So I'm going to drop this flywheel back on here from the top. Make sure it sits neatly on this keyway. Just trying to work out where the keyway is. That's it. I normally just look down from the top from here and drop that on. And we've got the washer. Goes on over the top of there. And then I'm going to have a look at this part somewhere around here, and I'll show you the ball bearings that I need cleaning off. But you look in here, looks like it's had previously had a bit of oil in there. All wants cleaning out. You can probably particularly see around here how dirty it is. And if these ball bearings don't have any sort of freedom to move about, they don't catch. So when you go to pull over the lawnmower, it don't catch, and the mechanism, the ratchet mechanism won't work. So I've got that back on, just loosely put that back on there, tightened it up hand tight. Got all these little ball bearings back in here. I'm going to drop this ratchet back on as well, line everything up, and then we can get on with this carb. I'm just putting this back together, so I've just hand tightened this bottom part on. I'll put this ratchet in. Found the best way to do this is to put this in first, then take the ball bearings one at a time and drop them in the little gaps. If you try and do it the other way around, you'll struggle to get the ratchet back on, which is what I did at first. So I'm going to put these in like this, and then we'll just put this all back together, and we'll have a look underneath here. I'm going to show you this kill switch before we do the carb. I'm just going to tap around here. As I said, I didn't really need to take all this off, but I guess now I've taken it off, at least it's had a bit of a clean up. So you can see how that spins, and then when you go the other way it locks, and that's what you want when you're putting the recoil on. I think what was happening before is when I was going back the other way, the ball bearings weren't moving enough, so it weren't getting this grip. That seems to be I can't kind of make it fail now. So that's back on, that's good. So I'm going to tighten this up, and then we'll get on with the rest of this mower. I just want to mention as well, if you've just taken the flywheel off and not the coil, for anybody who's new to this, you don't need to readjust this coil, you don't need to reset this air gap between this actual ignition coil here and the flywheel. It'll stay in the same position once you put the flywheel on. It might sound really obvious that, but I just wanted to point this out because I've had a few questions about that over the years, whether you need to reset the ignition after you put the flywheel back on, and my answer to that is you shouldn't have to. So I want to have a look under here at this kill switch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these 3 bolts here and take this whole control arm off so I can turn it over and show you underneath it, and can have a look at exactly what's under there. So that's one out. I'm glad these are coming out, so these have been in a long time. That's another one. That's the third one. That's great. So I want to show how easily they would come out of there. So again, having an impact tool sometimes is just such a great time saver. So we'll take this off here and we're going to have a look at this switch, and it just looks like your normal kill switch that you get on your Briggs Classic. So there must be something here that goes across. I'm going to pull the camera closer in a minute and we'll have a really good look at this, and hopefully we can still use this kill switch if we change the ignition coil over to a more modern style and do away with the points. I don't see any reason why we can't connect a normal kill switch up like this one to a different ignition coil. So I'll move the camera, we'll have a good close-up look at this. So if you've watched any of my other videos on the Briggs Classics, you'll know that this kill switch is exactly the same as the standard one. If you just press this tab here, you should be able to pull this wire out, which you can. So I want to show you this because I didn't actually notice this when I was even trying to start the mower last time, but the kill switch, there's a little tab here that sticks up just at the tip of my finger there, and what happens is when this gets closed across, it touches the tab and moves it down. Can you see how it's just running over there, the tip of my finger? It just pushes that down out of the way like that, and when that connects like that, that should stop the spark, and when it's open like that, it should run. It's the equivalent of opening the brake up on your standard Briggs. So if I've got this back on the mower and it's in this position, the mower shouldn't run. As soon as it's disconnected, it should let the mower run. So I'm going to clean this part up, and I'm hoping I can put this back on the mower, connect up a normal ignition coil with a wire underneath here to the newer style coil that doesn't involve using the points at all. So kind of upgrading the ignition, if you like. Connect the kill switch wire to this, and when I've finished using this mower, I can simply push this across and it'll stop the mower. So it's effectively already got a kill switch built in. It's just under there. So this is something I kind of missed, really, if I'm honest, on the last video. And I think a few times when I was messing about with the springs and trying to get this mower to start, I might have even knocked this into a position where potentially I had this kill switch so that it wouldn't actually let me get any spark. So it's a shame I put the flywheel key back on and the actual flywheel. I'm just thinking now, shall I just do it now? We'll just do the ignition now and the carb now and swap both things over. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bump this flywheel back off. I'm going to cut off the wires, or potentially move the wires out of the way for now, and see if we can run this on a normal newer style ignition and a normal newer style carb. So while everything's kind of freed up and the flywheel is going to be easy to get off, I just took it all back off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this actual ignition coil here. I'm going to take this off, and I'm actually going to be brave or stupid, you can decide, and I'm going to cut all these off from the points. I'm going to disregard the points, and once I've committed to that, then there's kind of no way back really from making it work with a standard ignition coil, because I know I've got a coil and the wires, I've got plenty of spares, I always keep those. And in fact, it was only the other day I stripped that other mower down with a rotten deck just to take the coil off, and I saved the coil and the wire and everything, so I've got that. So that's there. You can see the wires that you've got here, and on this style of ignition coil, they're actually kind of built into the coil. On the newer style, these are on like a spade connector, so you can pull the actual wires off, but on this there's nothing I can do really apart from pull the wires out off here. So I'm going to have a look at that connection and see if I can kind of slide them off, just in case I want to save them, but if not, I'm just going to cut them off, to be honest. And what I really don't want to do, in case I actually need to put this back on, is break these wires. But if you see, if you move the spring out of the way, hopefully you can just see I've got these two wires here kind of sticking up. See how I've just got them sticking up there? They can go through this tiny little hole. So what I'm going to do, and I can't do it while holding the camera, is I'm going to just pull this spring back like this, and I'm going to pull the wires out, and that way hopefully I can keep the wires connected to this coil. And you can see the end of it, you can see why I want to replace it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and unhook them from there, pull them through and save the coil in case I need it. I've managed to do it. I wish I could have filmed it really, but I've managed to keep that there like that. They should pull out under there. And that's it, that's off. And I don't know what's happened to those. Where have they gone? Yeah, that's just a kill switch wire, isn't it? So that's come from there. I've got this off, and I've managed to save all the parts I need. I hope if I need to put that back on I can. But if I'm honest, I'm not really planning on getting it back on. I'm just going to leave it kind of redundant like that. So nothing's going to happen under here if you kind of leave a few little parts there. So I'm going to put that there. It's not going to do anything because it's not connected, it's not wired up. So I'm going to kind of get this in a good position so I can keep all of these parts in here. I don't want to break this little wire off here either. So I'll keep the spring there, and I'm just going to get this cover, and I'm going to put the cover back on, and I'm just going to leave that and pretend it doesn't exist. You know, just totally forget about it, because it shouldn't do anything. There's nothing there. There's no wires connected to it. It's not really serving a purpose anymore. So that's gone. And the way forward now is to fit a new ignition coil, set it up with this actual flywheel, connect up a kill switch to the underside of that control arm, and change it to a more modern style carb. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'll once again put this flywheel back on. You don't need to see that again. But it's good that I cleaned it all off and had a look and learnt a little bit about points, because on other mowers in the future that I get that are older like this, I may not have that option. So I've found another coil, and I wanted to put the two side by side to see what the difference was. And you can see here, this is a more modern one. This is kind of filled in here. It's got an extra part and this extra actual contact point here, or electrical point, whichever way you want to look at it and whatever it does. But this one's empty. This is the older style. And having this part in here and this contact point here, this actually does away with the points. That's my understanding of it anyway. And then on here as well, I've got the actual kill switch, which normally would run right round the back of the flywheel to the kill switch. And I'm going to connect that to this actual kill switch that's on this control arm here, and manually use this part to actually shut the mower off. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly set up this coil. I actually had a couple, but this is off the one I took off. This one looks slightly worse, to be honest. So I'm going to quickly set up this coil, and then I'm going to do the carb, and then we'll have a look at connecting up this kill switch and see if it works. Right, so I've just grabbed this coil. I've got this air vane. I always call it a governor flat, but look today and everyone calls it an air vane. So if that's bothered you, then apparently it's called an air vane. First time I ever heard of it. I think someone called it a governor flap. I'm talking to this plastic bit here, this bit that goes around the corner here. Call it what you want, but I'm going to call it a governor flap. Goes like that. I'm going to put that in there. So it's moving about. And you can see I've got this kill switch wire that's free here, so I'm going to get that in there. Do my usual trick, put a bit of carb in here, set the gap, tighten it up at the other side, and then we're going to get the carb on. Right, so you can see how I quickly did that. I'm going to pull this piece of card out here. I've got a nice even gap. Make sure that this isn't broken inside here, make sure it clips on and doesn't fall off. And that's great. And you'll notice here how easily this governor flap moves around. This is obviously, it's not connected to any springs, but look how much it bends around the flywheel. I much prefer that. But there's one thing I need to check before I go any further, and that's that the recoil cover still goes on. If you're messing about with these parts and changing stuff over, you've really got to make sure that everything's going to go back on and still move freely. So let's just push this back on here. Just move these magnets around a little bit. That's going to go on. You've got to make sure you get this spark plug wire here through this little notch as well, otherwise this won't sit down properly. And that's still going to move about. I wanted to check that, so I made that mistake in the last video. With a different actual ignition coil on, that still goes on. That's something I did want to check. I need to work out a way to kind of route this, but I'm going to leave that round here for now. I'll just put that somewhere out of the way. I'm going to service this carb and put that on, and we'll worry about that later on in the video. Right, so I'll give this carb a quick service. This is off the other Champion mower that I got And don't forget, I got both these mowers for £25. So this is kind of already paid for itself, so I'm going to use this carb. I don't know what one of these would be to buy, but just in case you've skipped through a lot of this video, you're just finding it. What I'm trying to do with this old mower is I'm trying to get it in a position where you could actually regularly use it. So you're not having to do anything with the points, and you're actually able to start and stop this mower as often as you want, because as I've explained before, if it had the old Chocomatic carb on, trying to start it again when the engine's warm, it's very difficult to do. So I'm trying to get it to a point where it's got an upgraded ignition on it, and it's also got a switch on so we can turn it off when we want to finish with it. And I'm also trying to get it into a position where this actual carb is all cleaned out, ready to go, and you can start and stop the mower as often as you want. So I'm just trying to upgrade the ignition and the actual fuel system, if you like. So I'm going to take that off here. Yeah, see, that's a right mess. So this is going to need a good clean out. So we'll get those bits off there. Pull this diaphragm and gasket off. Got loads of those. That's a real mess, that one. This has been sat a long time as well, but you know, we've got all the bits to do it. You can see all the dirt on there. Got all the dirt there on that actual filter. That's where it picks the fuel up from. You definitely don't want that like that. Don't lose this spring. That's an absolute essential part of servicing one of these carbs. Do not lose the spring. And there's two on here. There's actually a diaphragm and a gasket on here. And that's actually solid on there. I don't think I've seen one as bad as this for a long time. So I'm going to remove the spring, put it in my tray. And I'm actually struggling to get this off here. It's so old. It's all just stuck. That's as bad as I've seen ever, to be honest with you. I've got to peel all this off, make sure it's completely off, or I won't get a good seal. So that's going to take me a little bit of time to get off. This pickup tube pulls out. Not many people do that, by the way. I don't think many people know that pulls out, but you can get it into there and give that a really good clean. Just press the primer bulb as well. I always like to see that springs back. It makes a little bit of noise as well. You can probably hear that. Listen. That's always a good sign as well. So just wants a really good clean up. Take that gasket off there. We'll take that off and we'll give this a really good clean out. Right, so I've given this a quick clean off camera. Just going to put some of this back together. Put that back on there. They can be quite hard to get on. If you twist them as you're putting them on, it can help actually. This goes back in. Let's just find where this goes. Yeah, like that. And this should click like that. That's back together. And it's had a pretty good clean up. It's not the best I've ever done, but it should be good enough to get this running. So I need to get a diaphragm and gasket on here. This must be dry before you put all this back on, so let's get one of those on there like that. That's not right, is it? Let's get that on there like that. You know, I've done this probably 1,000 times and I still get this wrong. Right, so the diaphragm, the thinner part, goes on first. The gasket, which is the thicker part, goes on after. We're going to hold this all together after I've done one thing, which I nearly forgot, and that's refit this spring. Look, that would have been good, wouldn't it? So it won't be the first time either. We're going to get that on there, make sure that stays on. Hold everything in place like this, slide this on an angle back down through here. And I want to make sure everything lines up. One thing I like to do is just bend down level and have a look and make sure the spring goes down nice and even and not twisted or bent or anything. Get all this lined up from above. Line all these holes up, make a really nice neat job of all this. I'm not too happy with that really. I am now, that's better. Make a really nice neat job, make sure all the holes line up. I'll grab these screws and put these back in. I've actually just got myself a decent, well, a decent screwdriver, a better screwdriver that I've got paint on. I could really do with a really decent set of screwdrivers. These are always like, you know, a packet of them you get for a tenner. But if anyone can recommend a set of screwdrivers that sort of this style, you haven't got to put the ends on yourself and stuff, you can just get them out. Anyone can recommend a good set of those that might last kind of a lifetime. I won't mind buying a decent set of drivers, to be honest. I've never had a good set, and now and again I like to make some profit on these mowers. I like to put some money back in, like I've done with my compressor and my impact tools and stuff like that. Because in the early videos, if you ever watched me try and take a blade off without an impact when it's been bent or anything, it's virtually impossible. So some tools are great to have. I think the one tool I couldn't do without would be the air compressor. I use that for so much, you know, just tidying the bench, blowing bits off, cleaning carbs, just all sorts. It's just so useful, blowing footballs up for kids and everything. So I think I've got a screw loose here, have I? Oh no, I'm alright. Right, so let's tighten these up. I'll get that in there, and I'm quite excited to get this on the mower. Hook the linkages up, if I can find any. In fact, I haven't thought about that, and some springs. And see if everything moves about like it would on a normal sort of Briggs Classic engine. It'd be good if it did. It'd be good if we could connect up this coil as well. That'd be really good. And I could get this running, then you could use it whenever you wanted. Start and stop the mower as often as you wanted. Empty the grass box, start it up again. And never have to touch the points or anything like that. So that's back together. Right, so I need to find some linkages and some springs. So I'm in my back cave box. Got my Batman box here. This is where I keep all little things like springs. I've got a few little bits in there. So I've kind of got one of the springs I want, which is this little one here, and it's connected to a normal linkage. Unfortunately, that mower I've just stripped down didn't have all the springs on. But that's got the linkage and kind of one spring on. I could do to find the longer governor spring that goes across, and if not, I might just have to nick it off my own lawnmower, to be honest, which is something I've done many times before. So unfortunately I don't have in there anyway the spring that I want, but I can get most of this back together. So before I put this carb on, what I need to do is just drop this linkage on here, because the linkage needs to go on. Then you push the linkage onto the bottom of the carb. So I'm going to put that there. Oh, move this bit adjuster again. I don't know how many times I've moved that out of the way. But, let's move that again. And let's get this carb. I'm going to hook. I'm not going to worry about the spring for now. I'm going to hook this little linkage here into this centre hole. If you're wondering which one it is, if you take one of these apart and trying to find out it's the bigger hole you hook the linkage to. I'll push this on here, onto this manifold here. I'll push this on as well. And hopefully it'll all push on like that, which it has. So that's a start. I've got that in there. And then I've got this linkage that moves about, but I don't have the control arm on, so I'm going to have to find somewhere when I've got the control arm on to hook these springs up to. So what I've done for now is I've got these wires here, and I've just put these 3 bolts in. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the control arm here, and although I've not properly cleaned this off yet, I'm going to hook in from underneath here. I'm going to hook in this actual kill switch wire. So you just press this little catch here and push it down, and I don't know how I'm going to reroute this as yet, but for now I'm just going to, while I'm finishing tonight, I'm just going to take these bolts out of here. I'm going to bolt this back on them, and then we'll have another look. Right, so I'm just going to bolt this control arm back on here. Right, so I'm going to tighten this centre one first. I guess I could take this off, so I'm not going to be using this throttle anymore. Take that off in a minute. That's on there. And then I've got this wire just loosely around here, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with it yet. So what I've done here, just put that little gasket back on there, is I've got this back connected up. I've not actually connected the carb back on yet, but everything should line up here. And at the front, I'm going to make this wire shorter. I'm just going to pull it around the front of the control arm, shorten it off and reconnect it. So what I've got here is I've got the little spring here that I got off this old Champion mower, and I've got the governor flap. And to be fair, with that just pushed through here, it does do its job. It does open and close, so I'm not sure if I'll have to mess about with that a little bit. But what I'm going to do is, if I can find these parts now, so I'm going to get the spacer and this bolt here, and I'm going to put this back together, and I'm just going to show you that this actual carb does fit nicely on this mower, because obviously it wasn't designed originally to go on here. So we're upgrading it really. I'm going to put that in there like that and just start that off. And that's started, and I'm going to get the other bolt that goes through here. Let's find the front one. Like this one. I'm going to put this one through the front here, like this. I've got that in there like that, look, which is great. So I should hopefully be able to get my... When you're doing this, make sure it all goes on even. So that's on there, that's nice and tight. I'm going to get a 10mm socket. Put this on as well. It's really, really cold in here. Really, sorry, keep moaning, so I know you're not bothered probably watching it home, but I am frozen. And that's this car bolted on. As you can see here, we've got all these parts moving about, including the springs, so there's no reason with a bit of fuel in here that this shouldn't run. And I've got this actual lead here that will go back on here, and I know that the recoil cover fits on. So hopefully I've done away with the points. I've got a new ignition system set up and a new fuel system set up. I know this coil, this recoil cover goes back on here, and this flap moves, although I don't know if it's under enough tension, but it does kind of balance itself. So I've got this kill switch under here. I guess what we need to do really is just bolt the recoil cover back on, throw some fuel in here and take it outside and see if this starts, and then using this little switch across here, when you push it across, see if it stops, which should be great. The only problem I can see really is getting to the switch for the air filter, but we'll worry about that bit later on. Just drop this cover on again. Once again, I still feel like with that pulled across there, I still feel like that's going to be pretty good really. The only problem is I'm hooking it onto this adjuster here, but we can have a mess about that when we get it going. So I can take that part off there. I don't need that anymore. For the actual cable, that can come off, and I'll keep it. Don't ever bin the bits. And I'm going to bolt the recoil cover on, and then we can go and test this. So I wasn't going to film anymore tonight. Just as I was putting this back together, I thought, why do I need to take this cable off? Because actually, if it moves about and I can get it to go across enough like this to push this little tab down here, that should shut the engine off. So I'm going to put the cable back on, and I'm going to attempt to use this. The only issue I've got really now with this is getting this spring connected to somewhere that's suitable. So I am going to put the cable back on. I'm going to get that part back on that I didn't bin, and I'm going to put the cable back on, and I'm going to see if I can use the cable and the throttle to actually move this across, to actually connect to the tab and stop the mower the same way as it's originally designed to do. That'd be fantastic if I can do that. Right, so I've just put this cable back on, and I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. Somebody that's watching would have done, but I'm a kind of sort of think as you go along and work out as you go along sort of person. But if I have this on full throttle now, this opens up, which moves everything away from this tab. And if you look in here now, you see the little tab that's just sticking out the top there, just above the tip of my finger there. When I put this on to stop, there's actually a little notch in the actual handle, and you can feel it stops there. But if you go a little bit further, which is actually into the stop position, you'll see it just connects with that tab. And so I've set this cable up so it opens and closes like that. I'm a bit concerned about the spring. Obviously, the further open this flap goes like this, the faster it's going to run. So it looks okay. It kind of collapses a little bit on stop, which is fine. And I have a connection here. You can see that there. But I need to make sure that it pushes this tab down far enough so that underneath it disconnects. So it's the same principle as the Briggs Classic kill switch, but I need to make absolutely sure that this part here, which all looks a little bit bent, pushes this far enough to actually cause this spark to stop. If I can get that to happen, that'll be fantastic. So I'm going to shorten this wire because I can't go in tonight and watch Sopranos before I've done that. So I'm going to shorten that off, and I'm going to just make it up to that kill switch again. I'm actually going to push it through this little hole. There's actually a little hole here at the front, so I'm going to hide it through there because it's annoying me this. I can't go in till I've done this. I'm going to get that out of there if I can, yeah, like that. I'm going to route it, there's a hole here, I'm going to take that through there, like that. And make sure that nothing's going to get obstructed with this wire. That looks okay like that. So I've got a few of these, but I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to make the end off, and I'm just going to push it back through that tab, and effectively you won't really see it apart from around the side of there. So that's great. Right, so I've got this wire here. You can see how it just comes around the corner here. I put it through this little hole, and what I was talking about that I didn't film before is when I move this if you didn't see the last video, this all moves this mechanism about. If I go to stop there, it goes a little bit further, so that's on the lowest speed, and then a stop, which I'm going to press now, moves this, and it should push just far enough to push this little tab down here. It's just at the tip of my finger, so I'm going to press it now, and hopefully when that touches that, it'll kill the actual spark and kill the engine. So hopefully I've got a working kill switch. I've got no more points, I've got a new ignition, I've got a new fuel system. So it's going to need a little bit of tweaking. This height adjuster even just stays out of the way as well. But it looks like a much better setup than we had before. So let's go and try this mower out. Alright, so I want to try this, but probably tell it's been snowing a bit, so I'm going to fill this up with fuel, replenish this flux capacitor, drop a bit of I think Towel Fixes All channel. I think he called it dinosaur juice, which made me laugh the other day actually. But I'm going to put a bit of fuel in here, a bit of petrol in here, and we'll try it. Don't think it'll run right because I don't think I've got these springs set up right, but I've just got a little bit of time just to try this. Right, I've just turned my light round up here. Let's drag this out. Put this spark plug lead back on here. Put a bit of fuel in this, so let's drag it out. Honestly, the lengths you go to make a YouTube video. There's a Lego woman hiding in there, by the way. The kid's buried her in it. Let's try and get it in some sort of light, and I'll try and film it and see what we get. I don't expect it to run right, but I bet I'm the only person in this street that's out starting the lawnmower up, don't you? God, there must be something wrong with me. Anyway, let's try it. This will be funny, won't it? I can't quite get used to the carb being on this side either, really facing me. I've got some fuel going through from the top, I can see. That's good. Right, let's try it. Well, at least we got it to fire, so we know that the coil is working. I'm not too sure why it died. Let's put a bit more fuel in. Don't forget we've only just serviced this carb as well, so let's try it again. Right, so it's running too fast as you can tell, but what I want to show you is that the actual kill switch works, which is what I wanted to find out. I can sort the speed out of it, so let's start this up again. I'll try and show you the handle as well, if I can. I haven't quite got enough there, have I? In fact I won't. Let me just get in here. This is bizarre, isn't it, filming in snow. So what I want to try and show you is this actual kill switch is working, which is great, which is what I wanted. So let's fire it up again. That's great. That does exactly what I want it to do. It runs on the newer style carb, and it runs without the points as well. So I've got a bit of tweaking to do with these springs. It's obviously a bit too tight, it's running too fast, and I think we might be on a winner. Oh, freezing. Right, the only thing I can really do with this is just for now is just to kind of stretch this spring a bit, take a bit of the tension out of this and then hook it back on. So I'm going to do that and play about with it. I'm a bit short of these little springs, so I'm going to find that again. Just get my little tool here, look. These are handy to have, these little magnetic tools, look. Look at that, there, it saved me again. I'm going to play about with this, see if I can get it to slow down again. But it's great because this runs on the other style carb, and this kill switch here, this works as well, which means we've done away with the points, so that's fantastic. And of course when this is in regular use again, when I give it to somebody, they can start it and stop it as many times as they want, because they ain't got the problem of the actual carb choking itself, which is great. Right, so here we go. There we go, brilliant. So that's it for me for this video. We've changed over the carb and we've so cold. We've changed over the carb to the newer style Briggs carb that you get on the 35 Classics. We've done away with the points, had a look at how kind of not to set them, had a look at how to remove this flywheel, which I made a real mess of, and I can't wait to see the comments in the comment section about that, so do leave me one, it's fine. But we've got it running without the points. We've got a new ignition system set up on here, the new fuel system set up, so somebody can use this regularly if they wanted to start some runs. I've got a few little bits to do with the springs yet. It's not quite running as well as I'd like it. I'll probably put another spring on there, or perhaps the two that you normally get with the normal Briggs Classic carb setup that I've shown you before loads of times. So all changed over, new fuel system, new ignition system, and we're still guessing the year of this lawnmower, but it seems to be running nice anyway. I think it's from the early 80s. So if you aren't subscribed and you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please consider subscribing, tick the bell notification, and watch some of the hundreds of other videos here on Repair Lawnmowers for Profit. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to go in, get a nice cup of hot tea, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, I really do appreciate it. Bye for now.